Lucia's fingers drummed gently on the side of her sketchbook as she sat on the stone steps of Placa Rail. The square buzzed with life, tourists snapping photos, children chasing pigeons, and the golden sunlight casting warm shadows through the palms. Lucia always came here to draw. It was her haven in the heart of Barcelona, a place where inspiration flowed as freely as the breeze. She adjusted her beret and sketched the arcades across the square. Her focus was sharp, but her thoughts often drifted, mostly to Mateo. He had that kind of pull over her mind, like the echo of a haunting melody. Mateo was charming, charismatic, and well-known in their university's media faculty. He was also an aspiring TikTok star, always with his phone out, recording some prank or monologue. They had been dating for 6 months now. At first, it felt like magic. He would surprise her with café con leche at her dorm, walk her home after class, and post cute couple videos online. Lucia never cared for the fame, but she adored how Mateo made her feel special. But lately, something had shifted. Mateo had grown more critical, more distant. His videos had become mean-spirited, mocking strangers on the street or secretly filming awkward classmates. Lucia began to feel a gnawing discomfort watching them. The man she loved was becoming someone she didn't quite recognize. Still, when he called her that afternoon, asking her to meet for dinner at a new tapas bar near El Rovel, she didn't hesitate. Maybe he wanted to talk things through. Maybe he missed her smile, her laugh, her sketchbook full of faces. Lucia tucked her pencils away, stood up, and dusted off her jeans. The sun was setting, spilling orange and crimson across the cobbled streets. She felt nervous, but hopeful. By the time she reached the restaurant, Mateo was already seated outside, scrolling through his phone. His camera tripod was set on the table. That was unusual. He greeted her with a distracted kiss on the cheek and barely looked up. Lucia sat across from him, trying to read his expression, but it was blank, or worse, performative. His eyes flicked between her and the camera, and something cold twisted in her chest. "Lucia," he said, "I'm going to try something different with my content tonight." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He smiled, not a warm one, but the smile of someone who knows a secret. "Just be yourself." As the waiter brought them drinks, Lucia spotted the red light on Mateo's camera. It was recording. Lucia shifted in her seat, the cushion beneath her feeling suddenly thin and cold. The tiny red light on Mateo's camera blinked steadily, watching her like an unblinking eye. The street around them was alive with laughter and conversation, but at their table, a strange tension clung to the air. Mateo picked up his wine glass and clinked it against hers. "To honesty," he said, smiling broadly. Lucia offered a weak smile in return. "What's this about, Mateo?" Instead of answering, he turned the camera slightly to capture more of her face. Then he leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes gleaming. "I've been thinking," he said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "My followers deserve to know the truth. About us." Lucia froze. "What truth?" Mateo chuckled and glanced at the camera. "This right here," he gestured between them, "is the most one-sided relationship I've ever been in. I mean, look at me and look at her." Gasps rose from the neighboring diners. Lucia blinked. "What are you doing?" "I'm just saying," he continued, undeterred. "She doesn't dress up, she doesn't do anything exciting, and she draws people in a notebook like some weirdo." Lucia's face flushed. Her hands trembled as she tried to form words, but her throat tightened with shock. "I mean," Mateo went on, clearly enjoying himself now, "I gave this a shot, right? 6 months. But I'm done pretending. You're not girlfriend material. You're a placeholder." Someone from a nearby table muttered, "Is this a joke?" But Mateo laughed. "Oh, it's real. I want my audience to see what settling looks like, so they never make the same mistake." Lucia rose to her feet, her heart pounding so loud it drowned the city noise. "Stop the camera." But Mateo didn't. He just grinned wider. Her chair scraped against the pavement as she stepped back. The world felt tilted, unreal. Her ears burned. The faces around her blurred into a sea of strangers who had just witnessed her soul being stripped bare. The waiter approached, hesitating. "Señorita, the bill?" Lucia reached into her bag with shaking hands and handed him her card. Mateo didn't move, didn't offer, didn't flinch. As the payment processed, she glanced one last time at him, still smiling at his camera. Then she walked away. The sound of laughter from the next table pierced the silence behind her. Lucia didn't turn back. She didn't cry, but something in her head cracked. And she knew this wasn't over. This was only the beginning. By morning, Lucia's phone was vibrating nonstop. She blinked at the screen through sleep-blurred eyes. Over 50 notifications from Instagram, TikTok, even WhatsApp. Her heart sank. It was too early for anything good. Opening TikTok confirmed her worst fear. There it was, the video. Mateo's video. Nearly 2 million views overnight. The title read, "The Truth About My Girlfriend. She Had No Idea I Was Recording." Lucia's stomach churned. The comments were a storm of cruelty and chaos. Some viewers laughed. Others insulted her appearance, her voice, her clothes. A few defended her, but they were drowned in the noise of thousands who had taken Mateo's side. One user wrote, "Mateo dodged a bullet. She looks like she lives in a library." Another commented, "This is brutal, but also hilarious." Lucia shut the app. Her hands trembled. The betrayal cut deeper than she'd imagined. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a broadcast. An execution, played out to an audience who didn't even know her name. Her phone rang. It was Carolina, her flatmate and closest friend. "Lucia," she said, voice sharp with worry. "Are you okay?" Lucia couldn't speak at first. Then, barely above a whisper, she managed, "He posted it." "I saw," Carolina replied. "Listen, you don't have to go to class today. Stay home. I'll bring you something to eat." Lucia nodded, though Carolina couldn't see her. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the wall, as if the paint might peel away and offer an escape. But there was no escape. Not from this. The doorbell rang an hour later. Not Carolina. A man stood outside holding a paper bag and a note. "For Lucia," he said in a clipped tone before walking off. She opened the bag. It was pastries from her favorite cafe. The note inside read, "You're better than him. He doesn't deserve a single page of your sketchbook." It was unsigned. Her eyes stung with tears. Someone had seen. Someone had cared. But as the hours passed, so did the sympathy. By the afternoon, gossip was spreading at the university. She could hear it in whispered halls, see it in mocking glances. One of her professors even asked if she was coping well with the attention. Attention. That's what Mateo called it too. Lucia walked past the courtyard, trying to keep her head high. But then she heard it, the sound of Mateo's voice, amplified through someone's phone speaker, laughing about her again in a follow-up video. Her hands clenched. He was making a series. He wasn't finished humiliating her. And that's when she knew she had to fight back. Not with revenge, not with drama, but with truth. Her truth. That evening, Lucia sat at her tiny desk overlooking the rooftops of Elborn. The city beyond was glowing, restless, but she remained still, her sketchbook open before her, untouched for hours. She had drawn hundreds of faces in this book. People from markets, metro stations, cafes. Honest, human moments captured in graphite and ink. But tonight, she flipped to a fresh page and drew herself. Not how she looked in Mateo's video, nervous, blindsided, frozen, but how she wanted to remember herself. Eyes steady, shoulders proud, hair tousled from wind, not shame. It was the first time she had ever drawn her own face. When the portrait was complete, she stared at it for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. She opened her barely used TikTok account, created months ago just to follow friends and artists. Her profile had no posts, no followers. Until now. She adjusted the lighting, positioned her sketchbook in the frame, and hit record. Her voice was calm, even. "My name is Lucia. You might have seen a video of me recently when I didn't know it was being filmed. I was made into a joke by someone I trusted, but I'm not here to shame him back. I'm here to tell you who I am. Not through words. Through this. She flipped through her sketchbook on camera, page after page of detailed, emotional portraits. Street performers, sleeping travelers, mothers with babies, laughing friends. Each page told a story deeper than any viral video. Then she turned to the self-portrait. This is me. The real me. I'm not a placeholder. I'm not a prop. I'm an artist. And I see people, really see them, even when others mock or ignore them. She ended the video with silence. No dramatic music. No clever caption. Just truth. She hesitated before posting, then tapped upload. It was done. She didn't expect much. Maybe a few views. A kind comment or two. But by the time she brushed her teeth and returned to her phone, the notifications had already begun. Hundreds. Thousands. One comment read, "I cried watching this. You have a gift." Another said, "Finally, a real human moment on this app." By midnight, she had over 100,000 views. By morning, over 1 million. Her sketchbook had spoken, and the world was listening. Lucia walked into the university the next day with her shoulders straighter. Not because everything had healed, not because the hurt had vanished, but because something inside her had shifted. She no longer felt like the girl in Mateo's video, the passive, silent target. She felt seen, truly seen for the first time. The corridor buzzed as usual, but now, the whispers were different. "She's the girl from the sketchbook video. I followed her last night. That self-portrait? Incredible. She's so talented. I can't believe he did that to her." Lucia kept her head high as she passed a group of Mateo's usual entourage. Some looked away. Others gave her a hesitant nod, like they weren't sure whose side they were on anymore. She didn't need them to pick sides. She had chosen herself. At the library, Carolina was waiting. "You've blown up," she whispered, eyes wide with pride. "You're on Buzz Hispana. Even a journalist from Madrid messaged you. Did you check your DMs?" Lucia smiled, tired but genuine. "Not yet. It's a bit overwhelming. I saved you a seat. Come hide here with me if you need." They sat together under the soft lamplight, surrounded by books and silence. Lucia pulled out her sketchbook, but before she could draw, her phone buzzed again. This time it was different. Mateo. His name lit up the screen like a warning flare. She stared at it, pulse quickening, then finally answered. "Lucia," he said, voice unusually soft. "I saw your video." Silence. "I just wanted to say I didn't think it would blow up like that. I was just trying to be entertaining. People liked that kind of thing." "People," she repeated quietly. "Or your ego?" He didn't respond. "I wasn't a person to you, Mateo. I was a plot twist." "Okay, that's not fair." She cut him off. "It's not about fair. It's about respect. And you don't know what that means." Another pause. "I didn't think you'd respond this way." Lucia laughed, bitter and short. "Of course you didn't. Because you never imagined I'd fight back." Then she hung up. She let the silence settle around her, grounding her, steadying her. She opened her DMs. Hundreds of messages from students, strangers, even art galleries. But one caught her eye. It was from a woman named Sofia Alvarez, a gallery curator in Valencia. "Lucia, I saw your video and your work. I'm curating an exhibition on personal resilience in art. Would you consider submitting your sketchbook?" Lucia blinked. An exhibition. Her sketchbook. Her truth. On display for others to feel, not judge. Carolina leaned over. "What is it?" Lucia turned to her, smiling softly. "A new beginning." The train ride to Valencia felt surreal. Lucia sat by the window, sketchbook in her lap, watching olive groves and sunlit hills blur past. Her phone buzzed occasionally, but she left it untouched. For once, she wanted the silence. She needed the distance from the noise from Barcelona, from the digital storm that had upended her life. The invitation from Sofia Alvarez hadn't felt real at first. A gallery? Her work? But now she was on her way, portfolio in hand, heart thudding with cautious hope. Valencia greeted her with orange blossoms and sea breeze. The gallery was a modest but elegant space nestled between modern cafes and historic alleys. Inside, sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting soft reflections on polished floors. Sophia was waiting. She was in her 40s, graceful, with dark curly hair and warm eyes that instantly made Lucia feel safe. "Lucia," she greeted, extending her hand. "It's so good to meet the girl behind the pages." Lucia offered a shy smile. "Thank you for inviting me. I'm still not sure why I'm here." Sophia chuckled. "Because your work carries something most viral stars lack, soul. We've seen thousands of polished reels. But what you gave the world was raw, unfiltered emotion. That's rare." They sat together in the gallery's reading room. Lucia opened her sketchbook, page by page, while Sophia studied it with care, occasionally pausing to ask a question. "Who is this woman?" she asked, pointing to a portrait of an elderly lady. "She sells flowers near the Gothic Quarter," Lucia explained. "I gave her a copy of the drawing once." She cried. Sophia nodded. "You don't just draw what people look like. You draw who they are." That evening, Sophia offered her something unexpected, a place in the exhibition, yes, but more than that. "I want to feature your story as part of a live segment," she said. "Not just your art, but your voice. People are still talking about that video. And they deserve to hear from the person behind it. On your terms." Lucia hesitated. Speaking publicly wasn't something she'd ever imagined. But this wasn't TikTok. This wasn't Mateo's stage. This was hers. "I'll do it," she said, pulse quickening. The next few days passed in a blur of planning and preparation. Lucia helped arrange her pieces on the gallery wall, her sketches displayed alongside other works of resilience, photographs of protests, abstract paintings born from grief, sculptures carved in silence. Opening night came quickly. As people poured into the space, she stood off to the side, breath shallow, heart racing. Then Sophia introduced her. Lucia stepped into the soft glow of the spotlight. She spoke, not about Mateo, not directly, but about truth and quiet strength and what it means to be visible in a world that too often erases gentle souls. And when she finished, the room didn't erupt in noise. It stood in stillness. Moved. Connected. She stepped down from the platform with tears in her eyes. Not from pain, but from release. The sketchbook, once a place of quiet retreat, had become her voice. And the world was finally listening. The morning after the exhibition, Lucia woke to soft light pouring through the hotel curtains. For the first time in weeks, there was no anxiety clinging to her chest. No knot in her stomach. Only quiet. Her phone buzzed again, but this time she didn't flinch. The notifications were different now. Respectful, curious, full of admiration. Messages from fellow artists, students from her university, even strangers who shared their own stories of being belittled or silenced. Lucia read one that struck her deeply. "Your sketchbook reminded me that I used to draw too, before someone made me feel small. Thank you for helping me remember who I am." She smiled, fingertips grazing the worn edges of her book. Later that afternoon, she returned to the gallery to collect her things. The walls were already being cleared for the next exhibition. Her sketchbook had been carefully removed from the glass display, waiting in a box beside her name tag. Sophia met her at the entrance. "You made an impact, Lucia. People came to see your drawings, but they left with something more. They left feeling brave." Lucia looked around at the now empty space. "I didn't think I had anything worth saying." Sometimes the quietest voices are the ones people remember. As she walked through Valencia's sun-drenched streets that evening, she found herself sketching again. A street guitarist. A child chasing pigeons. A pair of old friends laughing over café con leche. The city came alive through her lines. Her art no longer felt like a shield. It was a mirror. Back in Barcelona, Lucia returned to her normal routines, but she wasn't the same. She passed Mateo once near the university. He was alone, slouched against a wall, scrolling through his phone. Their eyes met briefly. He looked away first. No apology. No words. Just silence. And she didn't need anything more. Carolina greeted her with open arms at the flat. "You're glowing," she said. "I'm exhausted," Lucia laughed. "But good. Whole." That night, she opened a new notebook. On the first page, she wrote a single line. "To those who think silence is weakness, this is the sound of healing." Then, in calm strokes, she began a new portrait. This time, not of herself, but of another girl who might one day need to see someone who had been broken and chose not to stay that way. The days that followed felt like a gentle awakening. Lucia's art continued to attract attention, but now it was on her terms. She received invitations to speak at workshops, to share her experience not as a victim, but as an artist who found strength through creation. At university, she noticed subtle changes too. Professors treated her with more respect. Some classmates approached her, curious to know the real Lucia, beyond the viral video. Yet, shadows lingered. Matteo had not forgotten. Another video appeared on his channel, this one subtler, more calculated. It hinted at their past but framed Lucia as unstable, as someone seeking attention. The comments reignited old wounds. Lucia felt the sting, but this time she stood firm. With Carolina's support, she recorded a short response, not angry, not defensive, just honest. "I won't let anyone define me," she said softly. "My story is mine to tell." The video quickly gained traction, many rallying to her side. One message stood out. "Your courage is inspiring. Keep shining." Lucia realized then that light and shadow would always dance around her life. But the choice of which to follow was hers alone. Weeks passed, and life began to settle into a new rhythm. Lucia balanced university, art, and growing public attention with a cautious optimism. The scars from Matteo's betrayal still tingled beneath the surface, but they no longer controlled her. One afternoon, while sketching in a quiet park near the Sagrada Familia, Lucia noticed a familiar figure sitting on a bench nearby. Matteo. He looked different, less confident, his eyes shadowed with regret. She debated whether to approach him, but curiosity won. Walking over, she stopped a few feet away. "Matteo." He looked up, startled. "Lucia. I didn't expect to see you here." She took a breath. "Why did you do it? Post those videos." His gaze dropped. "I was scared. Scared of being ordinary. I thought if I made you look bad, I'd seem better." Lucia shook her head. "You hurt me, and many others. But that's your story, not mine." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry. I've been trying to fix things, not just with you, but with myself." Silence stretched between them. "Maybe one day," she said softly, "you'll understand what respect really means." With that, Lucia turned away, her sketchbook clutched close. Matteo watched her leave, a small flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. Sometimes, redemption starts with a single step. Spring blossomed across Barcelona as Lucia stepped onto the stage of a local community center. The room was filled with young artists, students, and strangers drawn by her story, a story of pain, courage, and creativity. She held her sketchbook tightly, but this time it felt like a source of strength, not a shield. "I want to thank you all for being here," she began, voice steady. "Not long ago, I was made to feel invisible. I was humiliated in front of thousands online. But I learned that being seen, really seen, means embracing who you are, even when the world tries to define you differently." She shared her journey, her art, and the lessons she'd learned about respect, resilience, and the power of truth. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Backstage, Carolina hugged her tightly. "You've changed so many lives." Lucia smiled, eyes shining. "And I'm just getting started." Outside, the sun set over the city's rooftops, painting the sky in hues of gold and rose. For Lucia, this was not an ending. It was a beginning, a new chapter, a horizon filled with hope.